I'm Melissa Richardson Banks, and some of you know me because of my work in the Arts District for the past 25 years. And others of you may know that I also have the pleasure and the privilege to work with Cheech Marin, and I've worked with him now for 15 years, helping support his work as he's really created this dynamic and amazing Chicano art collection. And I've had also the privilege now. We just came back from Texas last night, where we organized and produced our first 13th exhibit of Chicano art, and over 50 museums across the country and in Europe. So I'm just very excited that we're here today. I'd like to start with introducing first the moderator of today's program. And the moderator of today's program is Kulapat Yantrasast, and he's with Y Architecture. And he's an award-winning architect, and I'm very excited because he's one of the two firms that have been chosen to design the new Cheech Marin Center for Chicano Art Culture and Industry of Riverside Art Museum. And I am so excited. I hope that you've heard about this wonderful facility that's going to be created here in Southern California that is a national center. And Kulapat is a wonder. He's just recently, of some of his key projects that he's designed through his firm, the Marciano Art Foundation. He also has done the Institute for Contemporary Art LA in my neighborhood of the Arts District in downtown Los Angeles. He's also he was born in Thailand, Bangkok actually, and did his degrees of architecture from the University of Tokyo under a Japanese government scholarship. As I mentioned, he's the founder and the creative director of Y, which is a multidisciplinary design studio based in LA and New York. I think he's also the coolest guy ever, by the way. I always talked about him. His projects, as I mentioned, not only the Marciano Art Foundation, but also the Metropolitan Museum, the Art Institute of Chicago, and of course now the Cheech is what we're affectionately calling the new institution that is going to be in Riverside, California. He's currently on the board of trustees of the Pulitzer Art Foundation, pretty impressive, I think. And since 2005, he's served on the Artists Committee of the Americans for the Arts, of course, the nation's oldest organization for supports of the arts and the society. He's, as I mentioned, award-winning. One of the most exciting things recently, he was named one of 100 most powerful people in the art world by Art and Auction magazine. And actually, Cheech was just named one of the top 200 collectors in the world by Art News, and I think that's pretty impressive as well. A little bit about today's format. They're going to be in conversation. I'm going to gracefully get off the stage here. But then about 3:45, I'll get back on stage and we'll open up questions from the audience. There will be a microphone. I'll come back up and help direct that, and Adria will have a mic. So please, when we get to that time period, please wait for a mic before asking your questions, and I'll help repeat and facilitate as needed. So with that being said, I want to say, Cheech, I'm really grateful that you're here, and Kulapat, I would like to see if you both come on the stage. And as I'm coming up here, of course, Cheech Marin, my friend, Chicano art advocate, and recognized collector as well.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight, today in the afternoon. I don't know where I am. I just got back, but we hope to answer all your questions or inform you about what we're involved in right now. But I'll let Kulapat take the conversation right now, and yeah, on, dude.
Well, thank you, Cheech. I think, as all of us over here, I have the privilege and the honor to get to know you, and now working on this project together with you, Melissa, and the Riverside Art Museum. I think this could be the most exciting thing that happened to art and culture anywhere.
Yeah.
Because of your vision, because of how we engage the city and everyone involved with the communities. But I want to start with you.
Oh, okay.
As in, of course, everyone knows you mostly for who you are as this important performing artist and art advocate. But people really, apart if they don't read your book, which I have a copy here, and I learned a lot from that book. And one thing is that you talked about your cousin, and you credited him, Luis Robles, as someone that taught you how to learn and the passion of learning. And I always felt like all of us, always like there were always a few people in your life that really make such a big difference and kind of drive that to the way it is. So I want to talk to you about that a little bit and how you get into this, both for art and also for your own work.
Okay. Well, thank you. We were an anomaly. I had this group of cousins that were blue-collar, working-class Chicano kids that public school educated until we got to Catholic school, and then. But we're striving academics, you know, that came out of nowhere. Our parents were upholsterers, policemen, truck driver, mechanics, and. But we wanted to achieve academically, so we had this group, and my cousin Louis, who was I think 4 years older than I was, the most brilliant guy I've ever met. He got a scholarship to grade school. You know, really, it was an archdiocesan scholarship that the archdiocese, well, they get about 5. He was one of the 5. Got an artist scholarship from every school, high school to college, went to SC, University of Tokyo, all kinds of places. And he was the one that instilled this fun aspect of learning about everything. And so he would gather us, and we were young kids. We were like, I think I was 9 or 10 when we started this, and he would assign each cousin a section of knowledge that he wanted them to learn and bring back to the group. And so I was assigned art. And so it's okay, Cheech, you go out into that, and you learn all about art, and you bring it back to the group. And so I didn't really know that much about art at the time. My first entree into art was just raised Catholic. You could go to mass, and you go to church, and the only thing when you're a little kid is how long does this last? And you're looking up at the ceiling, and guys in sheets and clouds, and I was saying, why are they barbecuing that guy? So right away it appealed to me, spirituality and mayhem, which is kind of right up my alley. And so I thought, well, how do you learn about art? So I went to the library in the town I was living at the time, and I took out all the art books. And I just put them in front of me, and page by page, learned Cézanne, Picasso, Caravaggio, Rembrandt, Da Vinci. And that's how I knew. And so after years, the gap in my knowledge was contemporary art. I knew some names, but I didn't really know the scene. So I started exploring contemporary galleries here in Los Angeles. But it was that love of learning that Louis instilled in all of us, because he made it a game. It was a competition between all of us to who can learn the most, who can be. And it was a bright group of cousins. My cousin Regine Castro, who got assigned medieval history, became the first PhD in Chicano studies from Harvard University. My other cousin Lolly became a nun, was the head of her order. Louis was by far. Then I was the little puppy struggling to keep up with these guys. But he made it a game, to learning, and so we used to play some form of Jeopardy ever since we were little kids, and it was Louis that taught us how to answer fast, because that's the key to Jeopardy. Is you have to be, not only you have to know the answers, you have to be the first one to know the answers. And so when we were too slow, because he was kind of masochistic as well, if we didn't answer in 5 seconds, he got to punch us. Really? Ooh, and he left. And so that's how we started. And then eventually I became the very first celebrity Jeopardy champion. That's what you can clap now. That's
Well, that's interesting, because the cover of your book also have you hitting a piñata right
That's
here,
it.
right? So that explains that kind of, dynamic, emotional moment.
Yeah.
And one of, having a chance of visiting you at your home, and I really see, because you're one of the most, comprehensive, knowledge and hungry person I've ever met. You're, of course, a performing artist with music, with film, and then the art, and you can talk about a variety of subjects around you. You collect musical instruments. You're interested in posters. You're interested in all kind of things that around it. And I think that's such a wonderful, and now knowing that the background, because not everyone grew up in a situation that allowed them to be that curious, right? Allow them to be that absorbing. But you're also an artist working in your own trade. So how do you balance that? I mean, that's a difficult thing to do.
You know what? I think it starts at the inception when you look at learning or school or any of those kinds of as being fun. You know, it's cool to learn new stuff. And it's like, I don't know if there's any musicians here in the crowd, whether you play guitar or piano, but when you're learning to play one of those instruments and you're learning, try to do something difficult, and you have to practice it over and over and over, and you finally get it. And it's like, wow, what a cool moment. I learned that riff, you know, like I learned that Jimi Hendrix riff.
Yeah.
And you practice it forever. And it's a very gratifying moment in what you are lucky enough if you were that process is instilled in you, and then all knowledge becomes fun. You learn it, and it's how. And I know every teacher is trying to instill this. The ones that really care, they want to instill this feeling of acquisition of knowledge as something fun, and then that turns everything into fun. It's not a barrier.
But there must be a moment, you know, I know that you're interested in art from a young age, but there must be a moment or a painting or a work of art that said to yourself, okay, from now on, I'm going to be an art advocate. I'm really going to really support the Chicano artists, Chicano culture, because I know that you not only just collect Chicano art, you collect other things as well, and you could really imbue yourself in everything that interests you and make you curious. But there must be a defining moment, which I think is important for all of us. It's like, well, that work really defined me, and from now on, I'm going to spend my time, which I know you do. You travel tirelessly, not only just to collect art, but promote, like what Melissa mentioned, and really be a true art advocate in a way that not too many art collectors spend their time to do that. Yeah. They collect, they put work at home, and they look at it, and then they be happy. Yeah. For you, you want to share, you want to engage, you want to also inspire the artist. So what is that moment, or what is that work that changed you?
Well, funny enough, it happened in Amsterdam, in Holland, and I had been starting to collect this art, you know, and I didn't know what, because I'm an inveterate collector. I collected bottle caps and matchbook covers and marbles and baseball cards and whatever it was. I had to have the whole set, you know, and I had that kind of mind that wanted to put everything in order and you learn about everything. And I started to put this collection together, and I was the perfect storm. I knew what the art was, because I saw these Chicano painters, and I go, these guys are good, man, because I'd seen good painting all my life. So I knew what good painting was. I had the money to collect it because I was gainfully employed for a bunch of years in a row. And I also had the celebrity in order to proselytize for this art. And I started putting this together, and I found myself in Amsterdam, and I was making a movie there, and I went to the Rijksmuseum, which has all the famous Dutch painters. I love Dutch painters. I love Rembrandt, I like Frans Hal. I like all those guys. And there was one painting by Rembrandt called The Night Watch. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. If you ever bought a cigar, it's on the top of the box. And I saw it in reproduction all my life, and in books. And I go, oh, that's a nice. All these guys, the burgers standing around, and so I say, you see it in a thing, but you go and see it in person, and it's huge. It's huge. It's almost like a mural, and it was like, wow, it was really transformative for me at that time. And I spent a lot of time in the room where it is, and I came out of that room, and I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy the biggest ass art I can from Chicano, because when I go out and do this tour, which I was starting to think about now, I want to make that same impression that the Night Watch had for me. And at the same time, after I kind of went out of the room all dizzy, and I went and had lunch in the museum and had a couple glasses of wine, and I came out, I was all cool, and I saw this little sign that said Vermeer. I saw, oh, Johannes Vermeer is one of my favorite painters in the history of the world. And I went down the hall and looked at the Vermeer paintings, which I had also seen in reproduction, and they were tiny. They were this big, like little. And I realized that it wasn't, it was inside the frame that counted, because how Vermeer distilled that moment of silence, and it said so much about the inner life of the person and the culture. And that's what gave me the inspiration to do the second tour that I ever did, called Chicanitas, little paintings, small paintings from the collection. And I wanted to mimic what I saw in Vermeer, and that has been a huge success. We've done over 15 venues with that show. The Chicano Vision went on to do 14 venues of all major museums, the Smithsonian, LACMA, the De Young, the Weissman, everywhere across the country. But it was that moment in Amsterdam where I got in touch with how the physical presence of a large painting or a small painting can affect you. So that was very instrumental.
That's amazing. It sounds like you're the perfect bridge between the Chicano culture to the world. Right? First of all, it's about people in the community, but it's also because of your love for something beyond. You are able to really look at that without any boundaries, without any definition, which I think is very strong. Which now brings us back to Chicano Art and Riverside. Todd sitting over there, with the team, which is when I heard about it, I was like, this is so brilliant. Like that, the fact that it's not in LA, the fact it's in Riverside, someone is seeing a big picture here, right? I was so excited about how that come into play, and when I learned and got to know the team that worked on that, I was like, oh my God, this is a savvy group of people who understand not only just the art, the power of art, but how art related to people and the city, and create all of that. So I want to hear from you about how it come, what Riverside mean to you, and maybe a larger question is, what do you think this center will do?
Oh, this center is going to do a lot. It's the first exclusive international Chicano museum of Chicano art in the world, and that's what we're going to make at the center. Thank you. I've come to realize that if your motives are pure, good things are going to happen. And it's kind of like I put together this collection over 30 years, and we've played over 50 museums with a private collection, which is unheard of in the museum world today, because they don't want you to show private collections in the museums, although they're all composed of paintings from private collections. So, all right, whatever. But because I understand the dynamic, they want to control the imprimatur stamp of there, and because it's the last validation of an art movement in the society and what it means, and so that's to be in a museum. That's what. And so I had been touring with us all over the country and over Europe, and I came to the point very recently, so what am I going to do with this collection? I can't keep it all under the bed, or put it up in the house, or, what am I going to do? So I started thinking, well, I'm going to start giving it away to different institutions where my friends are that have been wonderful to me throughout this whole process. And I very quickly started that, and at the same time, I opened up a show of works on paper called Papel Chicano 2, was the second one, our branch office, and at the Riverside Art Museum. And it was the biggest show they ever had by a factor of 5, because the city is 52% Chicano, as well as the Inland Empire, which is 52% Chicano, and they identify themselves as Chicanos. So I go, wow, this is interesting, because this town is very historic. In the 1880s, Riverside was the richest per capita city in the United States because of citrus. They grew all citrus that went all over the world, oranges, limes, lemons, grapefruits, tangerines. They grew it all there. And they built a railroad right to the groves, and they had disseminated it all over the world. And so it had a very rich historical, cultural background, because during those days, they were very rich, and they built all this, impressive architecture and buildings, and so we fit right in there. and it's a very cultural city, and I think it's poised. And I'm going to try to help the city do that. Is make it the new art town, the new art destination, because it's a very romantic city. That when I was asking the mayor, I said, "Don't you guys have like an orange blossom festival?" You know, or something? Because I grew up half of my life in an orange grove in the San Fernando Valley, and I know the intoxication of that smell. It makes you fall in love, you know, and it's very romantic. And I said, "We're going to have a festival during the orange blossoms. I want people to come to Riverside and fall in love and with the city and with art and whatever." So you know, it's kind of one of those kind of deals. And so they came to me with the city, and they offered me this museum, this building to house the collection, and it's the central, the main library in town. It's a classic mid-century building, and it's 61,420 feet, and so it was deigned from on high, you know. And I really feel that that's kind of part of the process. I don't know everybody's belief in whatever spirituality or other forces or higher beings, and I don't really know what I think about that. But I acknowledge that, and I stand in one spot and let it kind of guide me to what I'm supposed to do. And they came to me, and I couldn't understand what they were saying at first. That your collection was a big hit in the thing, and we like to do this museum, and then we're gonna live. You want me to buy a museum and put it? No. We want to give you this building to house the collection for the city of Riverside and the rest of the world. And it took me a while to kind of, you know, grasp that, like, wow, this is the answer to the dream. I hadn't even dreamed this dream, because it was, you know, I hadn't, you know, thought of something like that could happen. So I thought I was going to just give stuff away to different museums and, you know, kind of be a Chicano Johnny Appleseed, you know, and do this. But this offer came, and like, wow, this is, and so right away I was like, well, what else can we do, you know? And thinking of a bunch of activities, and it is a welcoming city and a welcoming administration, and everybody involved in it, and the population all want to be involved, you know. So we want to kind of go forward and create this destination to explain Chicano art, because it's a huge and important, and maybe one of the most important schools of American art ever. You know, it's bigger and more inclusive than, I don't know, abstract expressionism or Ashcan School or Hudson River Valley School or any of these schools that are kind of small. And this school and this group of artists is growing and growing as the population, Chicano population in the United States spreads and spreads and spreads. And you can see it happening. I was just in Topeka, Kansas. And Topeka, Kansas is kind of what you think of dead center Midwest. It's 175,000, sort of right around there, people. There's more Mexican restaurants than there are McDonald's. In Topeka, Kansas, there are over 50 Mexican restaurants. So it shows you the changing landscape and the cultural acceptance of Latino, Mexican, Chicano culture everywhere you go. And it's happening all over. You know, so.
Yeah, I think that's so exciting. I mean, back to this in Riverside, and I mean the idea to locate that. You know, many of the architects of the dream is in this room. You know, there's some great plan over there, and symbolically, the fact that it's situated right next to the Mission Inn is just so amazing.
Isn't that?
You see this world that are dreamy, like as if everything just happened without anyone building them.
Yeah.
And then you have this, which is where, you know, the people that are actually responsible to making this state great or this country great is all here.
Yeah.
So I think that was so brilliant how that take place.
It's destined. No, I mean, really, I really feel that it's destined, and I just don't want to get in the way of it. I want to collude with everybody to. Now this is collusion. And you're talking about collusion. This is collusion. We're in there colluding with the higher forces that way above my pay grade to bring this art, because art is the only thing we leave behind as a culture. Mm-hmm. It says who we are, how we feel about everybody else, and And as far as I know, there's no museum dedicated to the art of the deal. But after thousands of years, people still go to see the pyramids or see the Mona Lisa or the Eiffel Tower or go to the Louvre. And that's what we leave, that's our footprint, our cultural footprint that we leave behind for everybody to understand who we were. And so this is an excellent opportunity to explain who we are in the Chicano community, and it's spreading diaspora. And one of my big first agenda items is to redefine what Chicano means today, because it has changed. And that is more inclusive of other Latino groups, because I don't think that, because Chicano is a voluntary category. You have to declare yourself a Chicano in order to be a Chicano. Every Mexican American is not automatically a Chicano, because it's an attitude that is both politically defiant and self-identified. And so if you go on the census, there's no little box that says Chicano. You can't check that. But you can get a PhD in Chicano studies from Harvard University. So what's the message? We exist, we don't exist. And so we want to kind of use the academic foundation of this center to kind of go through the argument that we do exist, and where do we exist in the hierarchy of all this of world art, you know? And so we're in the process of beginning that journey right now, and so it's really exciting, you know, to kind of to come from a thing that an area of art that was not considered fine art. Chicanos were relegated, if they were relegated at all, into being agitprop folk art, and that's how they were characterized by the museum community, because the beginnings of Chicano art was political, and so I think our art establishment would be very happy to keep Chicanos in that little folk ethnic category, a little corner, but as the years went by, it grew and grew, and it's still in the process of growing. Being a voluntary category, we get to make up our own rules. There is no long tradition of the journey of Chicano art. We're making it up right now as we go along, and my feeling is that it should be more inclusive, because you just notice here in the city of Los Angeles, Chicanos, Mexicans, Mexican Americans, Central Americans, and South Americans grow up with the same influences. They intermarry, they do each other's art and our traditions and interpret those. And I think they have to be included in this Chicano movement. It's not necessarily only Mexican. It may have started with Mexican American, but has expanded throughout the world, because the biggest movement of art in the world right now is street art. And it started here in Los Angeles with Chaz Bojorquez, doing not just taggers, not putting up your initials or Pee-wee or whatever, but marking territory, that dialogue that goes along with marking territory, and that beginnings of graffiti art. And you cannot go, I travel a great deal, and you cannot go from any major cosmopolitan city in the world, and you cannot drive from the airport to the center of city without seeing it, street art on both sides of the highway. And it's a language. It's a language that doesn't have has a vocabulary but not an alphabet. And it's an introduction as to what is happening in that city. What are the issues that they're dealing with? How are they relating to other people? What groups are involved in this city? And I don't care if you go from Buenos Aires to Tokyo or Israel, you're going to see this thing. And so every time you travel now, start looking for that. And it's this language that doesn't have a precise alphabet, but it gives you that feeling. And that's the kind of the essence of Chicano art. It's not a painting style, because there's many painting styles in the school. It is a description of a community, and so that you get the sabor, the flavor and the taste and the texture of this society. And it's told from a myriad of different viewpoints, whether it's religious or humorous or socioeconomic or historical. they all come together, these viewpoints, in order from a myriad of different places to explain what is going on. And now it has become a world movement because, you know, I don't care. You can have America first, and, you know, but it's a reaction, you know. It's every once in a while the political system coughs up a hairball, you know, and there we are. But
That's
Mr.
a very good way to put it.
You know,
yes,
it's like, but Mr. Trump is like he's like gas. He will pass. You know, it's going to smell bad. It's going to make you feel bad. It's going to be a stomach ache. People will move away from you, but it will pass. And I'm looking forward to the next wave, because the next wave is going to be very positive, and it's going to include everybody. So there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And you have talked about this as we, you know, continue to work on this center together. You know, first of all, you know, we do it in a way that include everyone. You know, before we know what this center is supposed to be about, we have meetings with the public, with different kind of communities, to see how can this center be something that they want to come, be part of their life. And you yourself, every time I talk to you, there's always new ideas, new thinking, right? You want this to be a place, of course, for the collection of art, but you talked about street art. You talked about the idea of a Zocalo, with an idea that people can have food, so you can have music, movie, everything around it that really invite everyone in. Mm-hmm. And art is that glue that connect everyone together and make it bigger than just the painting on the wall, which I think is amazingly exciting for us and we got amazing feedback from the communities. Like, they loved it. They think food is important for Chicano culture. They think music is so important for Chicano culture. How can that be part of that? And we were just talking about that just before here, as in, how do we put all this together? But in your ideal world, what is the inspiring experience, assuming that we finish this center, you know, and we already welcoming the first group of people coming through? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to have an experience of?
I want them to feel the positive exuberance of the creative output of this community and how it's meant for everybody. You know, that's really important, and how it's important for the city of Riverside. I don't position it as well, we're just going to have the Cheech and that's it. No, it's all for the city in order to expand. The thing about how I grew up, being a Chicano, I grew up first in an all-black neighborhood. 36th and San Pedro is where I grew up, right down the street here, man. And it was, when I lived there, it was all black. It's now all Latino, but it was all black then. And then in the middle of that, I think I was about to turn 11, and we moved to Granada Hills, and everybody was white. So one day everybody was black, and then the next day everybody was white, or everybody was black and then white. And but I wasn't a Chicano in both, you know. So it allowed me this observational post to be of that community, but an outsider at the same time, but trying to fit in with both of those. And they each had their own little quirks of how to do that. But I always wanted to kind of be inclusive and part of. Because I always dreamed still do, dream the American dream, that everything that was promised to the American dreamers or just the dreamers in general applied to me, and I always never doubted that. And so I assumed as I went forward that they were talking to me, and most Latinos do, you know. You run over a bump every once in a while, but it's like gas, it will pass, because we are too positive an energy, creative energy, to be ignored or undone. You're not going to ever unweave the influence of Latino culture in this country, nor should you want to. If we do, we're going to have to rename everything, like Los Angeles, California, Arizona, Montana, Nevada, San Francisco, San Antonio. It is part and parcel of our culture. And so we want to foster that idea of cooperation and inclusion with everybody, because we are living in the United States of America.
And it's unique because even though was born here, grew up here in California, because of your travel and your generosity, you were in Mexico, you were in Kansas, you were in Chicago. I think, which is all these pieces, even though like you said, there's more Mexican restaurants in Kansas than McDonald's. But people in California never thought about it because, I think that uniting Chicano culture, internationally, nationally, and globally is something that I really feel, you're, taught me about that, how excited you are that these pockets of artists who are working in Corpus Christi, in Kansas, in Chicago, in Riverside, in LA, are now have a platform for them to show and communicate. So how do you imagine that, and how all these artists in different parts of this country, even the world, will be part of this program?
First, you have to know that the place exists where you can come and formulate these ideas and solidify them. The reason that Chicano culture and art grew up in different cities is because there was a center in each one of those cities where the artists could go and invent this art, argue about it, agree or disagree with each other. In Los Angeles, with self-help graphics. In San Antonio's Guadalupe Center. In San Francisco is Plaza de la Cultura. But in every city, there was some place that the artists could come together and invent this. And that's how it proceeded. And now you have, you have the French that were the Impressionists. They all grew up and worked in Paris, and everybody was there, and then they kind of exported it, or the world came to them. But we have these pockets all over the United States. The second biggest collection of Mexicans in the United States is in Chicago. First time I went to Chicago, and I ran into this. I was playing this club in Belmont Street in the section, and I was hungry in between shows, and I said, I walked out of the club, and there's a Mexican restaurant across the street. So, Mexican restaurant in Chicago? What are they going to serve? Beaner schnitzel or enchiladas de sauerkraut or quién sabe qué, But I went in there and looked in the window, and it was the real stuff. All of the food and everything. The whole place was full of Mexicans. And so then I was informed, this is the biggest section of Mexico. How come we didn't know that? How come? And since the early 30s, because of the invention of the railroads, could bring workers right into the middle of the heart of America. And so, how do we integrate this narrative and this story and encourage them to continue in a spirit of positive inclusion and what was that? A collusion. Yeah, we want to have this collusion. This is the collusion we want to have to bind ourselves as a nation.
And well, I want to bring it back a little bit to the art, because this year, as Melissa has pointed out, it's the 30 years anniversary of your collection.
Oh, yeah.
This is a big deal, right? And we're sitting here in an art fair, right? So I want to ask you, what art means to you? And what does it do, when you look at a work? Are you looking for the fire or the passion, or, because it must have served something, and that why you pick something over the other, and how do you see yourself in that process of collecting?
Oh, well, that's a good question. People often ask me, well, how do you choose a painting for the collection? And I have come to the conclusion that paintings have to haunt me. After I see them, I dream about them, or I think about them, or because I generally don't buy paintings right away. I look at them and I come back and I ask more people about them, and then if they start to haunt me, then I know that's the deal. But it's my experience of standing in front of a wonderful piece of art is have this very intellectual experience, and it's expressed by, wow. That's cool. And it's informed by all the history I've ever known and all the things I've ever known about it to get that reaction. Yeah, I can see all the influences. I can see all the Chicano influences. Like the Beatles. When you first heard the Beatles, You heard Chuck Berry, you heard Jerry Lee Lewis, you heard Carl Perkins, you heard every R&B, Motown, but it was the Beatles, and it was a particular English take on that sort of rhythm of another source, of another movement that was taking over the world, rock and roll. And they were influences by young kids in Liverpool, and that was another international language. And international languages, whether they be music or art or history or whatever it is, architecture or dance, have the ability to spread instantaneously now because of the internet, which is the greatest invention in the history of the world. There is no other invention that binds us together simultaneously so instantly throughout the world. And it's like authoritarian governments are going to have a hard time going forward, because you can't put this toothpaste back into the tube. People know that it exists, and they know how to communicate on this level. So ideas are going to spread much more rapidly than they already have, whether it was telegraph or television or telewoman, and that's how to spread the word. So it's going to be very fast, and because we're destined for something else, in our place in the cosmos. We're not going to always just be here on this planet. It's mathematically impossible. And so I want to get ready for that journey, like where are we going? The movie, the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where at the end Richard Dreyfuss, he gets on the flying saucer and it goes, I want to be that guy. I want to go, And so, but I want to find out what's out there, and I think everybody else does too. Some people might like to just stay here, and I like it here, but East Mars sounds good. So we'll see.
Well, and you mentioned music, which I'm glad you did, because I know that your knowledge of music is insane. Your wife is an internationally acclaimed musician who travel and play around the world. So how is that building in? Because your metaphor on music is perfect, because I think that music is one of the art forms that connect people. That really, you have to collaborate, you have to, and everyone can enjoy it without, whether you know the knowledge of it or not. It's something that everyone can intrinsically come to.
Yeah.
And I think the way that you look at visual arts, which normally are very divisive, right? It need knowledge, you understand the school, you need to understand the intention. So visual art is also kind of a standalone work that it's my work. It's not yours. The authorship on visual art is so much stronger than music.
Yeah.
But the way that you've been talking of the art in general is almost coming from this performing art. That's collaboration, that's sharing, that's the idea of everyone together. I think it was a very exciting thing in visual arts to have that spirit.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I view all art as music.
Mm-hmm.
All art has a rhythm. All art has a way to identify with the beats and the accents and the repetition. And I think it's music. Tommy and I always viewed comedy as music, because we were musicians all our life. We knew when to come in, where a 4/4 beat was, when to stay out, when to sing harmony, when there to be solo. And you look at, I can apply that to arts easily, or writing. Whenever you're reading a novel, there's a rhythm there, and you get into it, and that's the music, and it sweeps you away, and it takes you away. I mean, that's what I love about reading novels. That's just, you're in that world. I mean, I grew up in in South Central and at Granada Hills, and I always wanted to be taken away to sophisticated New York or Paris or anything, and that's what it does. But it can only take you away if there's a rhythm that you can understand and accept and be. It's like a magic carpet to get on that, and it's the way to understand everything. Because everything has a rhythm, everything has a beat, everything has a musicality about it. And so when I look at art, that's how I look at it, from a musical point of view.
For me, it's food. I tend to use food as a metaphor for everything. And up to now, I haven't found something I could not explain with food concept.
No.
So it's interesting how we, come in from that aspect. Well, one last question before we go to the floor. I think one thing that would be a tough question to ask. So if these people, they all are supporters of the Cheech Center, we are sitting here, and you have to give an elevator pitch to each of them, maybe a 30-second, 1-minute pitch, as in, why do they have to support this Cheech Center? What would you say?
Because I want all of you to be a part of something that's being invented right now. You have the opportunity to get in on the ground floor of this art movement as it spreads internationally. Not as it is right now, because it's been around for a while, but as it spreads internationally and becomes its own language that's understood every city you go to. And that's what I want. I invite everybody that would like to be a part of it to come and join us on this journey, because it's a uniting thing. I want everybody to be a part of it, and whether you're a Latino or white or Asian or whatever it is, we want to create this music that everybody relates to. You know, when you can go around the world and hear Carlos Santana, and you know exactly what it is, you know. But we want to have a lot more aspects to that, and we need your help, obviously, to continue the support of this, so that we may disseminate this uniting spirit. It's a uniting spirit. We want to disseminate this uniting spirit through art, and it can be done, and we will do it, and it will be a lot more fun if we do it with all of you. So that's what we want to do. So please join us.
So,
Okay, so I'm going to help direct the microphone, and Adria, you're going to have the phone. A couple of things while we're getting set up to do the questions. I'm going to give you the URL of our new website for the Cheech Center, and I hope you all visit it as soon as possible.
And this, before, I don't know if I mentioned this, this is a big building. It's 61,420 square feet.
And if you want to give at least in increments of 420, we'll take that.
Yes.
So it's the cheechcenter.org, the cheechcenter.org, and please go there, sign up. You can even donate now. And I mean, I think that's important. And I think it's really important to know that we are actually supporting the city of Riverside and Riverside Art Museum together in partnership. There's money to be raised too. So I'm just putting that out there. And please visit the website.
Because this is going to be a center, not just of my collection. I want to start collecting collections.
Oh, yes.
And also other plastic arts, whether it be sculpture or video or architecture, and it's an academic center too, so we can really put this on a very firm academic foundation. There's 5 universities in the Inland Empire, and all of them, or most of them, have over 50% Chicano population. And so if they want us to be legitimate, man, I could be more presidential than anybody, you know. But that's
an important.
But that's what we want to do, and if everybody helps us, we can do this. Because this is an expression of America, more than anything I've ever seen. So, you want to be an American? Sign on up.
You always say Chicano art is American art.
American art.
And that's really important. So with that saying, do we have any questions? And again, you'll need a microphone, so if we'll go over here, please.
There we go, right one here, right in the front.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
You mentioned you collect chicanitas. Can you explain what that is? What kind of art is?
Chicanitas are small paintings. That's it.
Any specific team?
No, it's just small paintings. I usually like my description is like about that big, no more than
Like
that big.
miniatures?
And pardon?
Miniatures?
That's a small painting too. I got this idea from the National Museum in Washington, D.C. Every time I'm in Washington, D.C., I always go to the National Museum and I see what's ever there. Sometimes it's a huge Toulouse-Lautrec show or a Turner show or Painters of Utrecht or whatever it is. I go and see that, whatever's at it. And so I never even check or look it up in the thing. I just go there. And so one time I went there and they were having this exhibition of small paintings. And it was packed. And the people were spending more time with these paintings than they would with these large gargantuan paintings that are culturally significant, I guess. But they spent more time because it's an intimacy. Because small paintings whisper to you. and they confide the secrets into you, and to you only. They're talking to you, and they imprint upon the soft clay of your memory. And they say, because I saw people coming back to that, because I came back to this display multiple times. I saw it, I think, 3 or 4 times in 1 week. And I would see the same people there coming back because they wanted that feeling of intimacy. And you find that the collectors who collect paintings, the small paintings are the ones that they keep with them. They keep it close to them no matter where they're. The place where they spend the most time, whether it's the kitchen or the bedroom or the bathroom. You know, their favorite paint is, and I still do the same thing. Because it's an intimacy. That's that conversation with you and the piece of art. And if you stand there, you can have this conversation. So that's where Chicanitas came from. It's not a deep fried, cheesy, chunky a chip. It's Chicanitas. It could have been Chicanitos, but I got so much pressure from the women. It became Chicanitas.
Is there one of the, okay, next. You go first.
Yes, ma'am.
So you mentioned that the center will show a little bit of academia, given that UCR is a research institute. How do you plan on doing that? Will you hold a research conference in the art center?
Yeah.
Will you display the Chicano artists at UCR and surrounding institutes?
Yeah. I've already been meeting with them, UCR, and they're set up to do it. They have Chicano studies and they have Chicano groups in there. And I want to float this idea because I want to come to a definition of what Chicano is right now. And so I want to include everybody in that discussion so we kind of like expand this in this field. But academia is a very important part of this because academia and the Chicano community has been a kind of not resistant to culture, but resistant to being excluded, you know. So I'm including all these universities, and I want to hear what they have to say. And I want to draw talent from the Inland Empire, and they have the opportunity to see the history of Chicano art at a certain place. And they can go, and then they can start adding to that history. And that's kind of what I want to do, is with academia anyways, and to make it fun at every point, you know, because everybody wants to be heard. Who doesn't want to be heard, you know? So we want to do that.
Cheech, we have a question over here.
Sir?
I did. I think it's great that you're doing that in Riverside. There's a lot of underserved schools in that area. And I remember as a kid, I lived in Highland Park in Los Angeles, and they would take us to Alvera Street.
Yeah.
And I would get exposed to all of this amazing thing that I'd never seen before. Now, mind you, some of that's velvet bulls and things like that, but still that culture. And I was wondering, are you going to invite local elementary schools? I know they're talking about higher academia, but what about our kids?
Absolutely.
Because that's the future, and I think that's great to expose them to that.
There will be many programs for kids during the center
Fantastic.
that come in and have hands-on experience with art, you know. It was my experience traveling the country with Chicano Visions at first that the Latino population in Minneapolis or St. Louis was heretofore unknown by their own cities, and they were amazed by all these people came out of the woodwork. But we had programs for children during our outreach, and it was the biggest. We broke attendance records in every single city we went into. You know, we did almost 1 million people at the Smithsonian. It was unheard of, the biggest show in 25 years. And so, of course, education for children and inclusion for children in this is a very big aspect of this program. So we want kids to grow up with feeling that art belongs to them and they can do it and be included, and that is expected of them to understand this.
And if I can just add to that real quickly, the Riverside Art Museum is actually we're partnering with for the center, and they have a very active and award-winning arts program. The Riverside Art Museum is 50 years old, so we're not starting from scratch. The idea, we have a great team, as Cheech was mentioning, with the city of Riverside as well, and I think that's important, as well as the universities that have been there and well-established. Up
Cheech.
here?
My name is Luis Horacio Pineda, and we're actually 3 Mexican Americans or Chicano artists. And I just want to know, what is it that we need, like, to be here to be out there with our work. What would you like to see? What would you recommend to us?
How to get in touch with me? Is that kind of what you're saying?
No.
Oh, okay.
How do you get into the
No.
art fairs, or how do you get exposed?
As an artist, like
Go to those places that are displaying that art, get in touch with them, and figure out how you can be part of it. Go to our website. Go to where we are proselytizing for this, and make yourself known. The art community, the art world is not magically going to find you. I don't work that way. You have to come and be proactive on this. So come and find us. But we are open to looking at everything, and maybe you'll show us a new direction, or another direction, or the direction that your art is going into, because this is an ever-evolving a situation, because that's kind of one of the definitions of Chicano art. It is ever-evolving because it takes every aspect that comes in front of you and include it in the art and interpret it in a particular way that heretofore has not been heard. So how you get a hold of us, and there's plenty of ways to do that. So we'd love to see your art.
Who has the mic over here?
I have it.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. First and foremost, thank you so much for taking up space.
Sure.
I grew up in East LA and I still live there. And I would want to know, how does somebody like me go about protecting art that's already in the community? So we have a lot of murals, a lot of just kind of street art that has organically happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know what steps to take to protect that art from quote unquote gentrification. How do we make that art visible?
Okay. What's the one that the Isabel is that program?
Yeah, she's. I don't think it's. I know that there's actually, obviously, you're probably already working with the Mural Conservancy and
There's
working
a
with existing. That's with Isabel Rojas Williams and others, but I don't know if there's. Is that what you're referencing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have organizations for the preservation of murals and for the preservation of that. I know the situation in East LA and how everybody does, or some part of the community does not want it to be gentrified. And okay, I don't know how to stop that. No, but I do know how to preserve what we have there without stopping it. I don't invent Chicano hipsters, and they can be part of that gentrification. But there is some inclusion that has to be, the preservation. If the pride and the energy and the dedication and the focus of that community wants that to happen, but it doesn't magically happen. And there's organizations that you can, or your friends can volunteer to be a part of, to preserve those murals. All the iconic murals in LA were done by, the first ones by the East Los Streetscapers, which are part of this art collection. And they're historic, and it's ongoing. They're making murals today as we speak. If that's important to you, and I think it should be, join that fight. You have to kind of, turn off the iPhone for a minute, put on a pair of overalls and grab a paintbrush and help. Be a part of the community. And not that you aren't, or anybody isn't, but being part of that preservation aspect of it, and it'll happen, because it does not happen magically. Okay. All right. But what's LA Art Conservancy is LA Mural Conservancy. And find their website. They have one.
Adrian,
Yeah.
could you also the mic over to this
a couple
gentleman
of questions.
afterwards? Okay.
One, when do you expect or hope to have your museum open? And secondly, is Metrolink a good way to get there from downtown LA?
We're scheduled to open in 2020, so 2 years from now. And I don't know about the Metrolink.
Metrolink is a good way to get there. Todd Wingate's the chief curator at Riverside Art Museum, and obviously one of the top people here at the Cheech. Could you please talk a little bit about? Could use the mic.
Metrolink station is 3 blocks away.
Yeah. So you can go there for lunch. Dude, it's only like an hour and a half from downtown
Actually,
LA.
from downtown to 50 minutes when I'm going against
50
traffic.
minutes.
So it's really fast.
You know, that's what's so
In the fast lane with a
magical
blow-up dummy.
about the location of this place. It's equidistant between LA, San Diego, Palm Springs, all those places that we can draw on, as well as being the county seat of the Inland Empire. It's a day out of the city in a bucolic setting. It's a magical town, and we're going to make it even more fun, we hope. So there is a Metrolink. Isn't Metrolink great?
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, I just came back from Tokyo, and I learned how to navigate the train system there. And you can get next door to any place you want to go in Tokyo if you know how to use that. Zoom. You just got to stand out at that platform in winter. Whew, that's cold.
Hey, Cheech.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to thank you for being one of my first serious collectors at the Renaissance Fair 45 years ago.
Oh, really?
And for making me laugh all those years.
What did I collect of yours?
Hand-blown glass.
Oh.
I made some water glasses for you.
Oh, yeah.
Who's that? Is that Steve?
Patty's brother.
Oh, Steve.
Yeah.
Mr. Steve Correa, one of our outstanding glass blowers. I couldn't see your backlit.
And I wanted to ask you if you and Tommy would consider running in 2020 because we need some humor and laughter. And
If they stuck 100 needles in my eye, I would not go into politics. You know, I like the perch I'm in right now, man. Politics it's too dirty. You know, that game. It's just the inherent problem with our political system, our elective system we're having now, is that elected officials spend 80% of their time raising money in order to get reelected. That's it. You know, so at the best, they have spent 20% of their time representing you. That's the inherent problem with the system. I don't know what the way around it is. I wouldn't trust electronic voting. It's easily hackable. So I don't know. You know, to make things easier for anybody, that's the answer. But how do you do it? I don't know.
laughter and humor. And congratulations on supporting all the artists in your career.
Thank you very much, David. You too, man. We've been going on forever.
We're going to take 2 more questions. Is that
Okay.
good? Okay, and I think I see one in the front here. Is there someone in the very back that has any questions that I didn't see? Why don't we
This
go there
young lady
first, and then
here?
we'll get this girl at the front here.
Oh, baby.
Hi.
Hi.
So I wanted to ask, I'm a muralist in Los Angeles, and I've been painting for 10 years. And I grew up in LA, and I've been around it my whole life. And actually got pulled into East LA artwork very early on, because that's where a lot of the Chicano art history is.
Mm-hmm.
But how does someone like myself, an artist like myself, get into your collection?
Present yourself to me, or to whoever I'm involved with. You know, I can't appreciate unless I see it. Chicano, you can't love or hate Chicano art unless you see it. So it's incumbent upon you to find your way to us, and then that's possible. That's the way. It's a very simple process.
Are there galleries or locations that you go to see this art?
I go to, I just came back to yesterday
We were in
from Corpus Christi, Texas, where there was a really, really well burgeoning art scene, Chicano art scene there. And sometimes I get drawn to that. But if you take your art and you want to present it, go find where we are. You have to.
Well, my name is Christy Sandoval,
Okay. All right.
just so you know.
All right, Christy.
Christy,
Put your art up. Let me see it, honey.
CheechMarin.com, and I'm hesitant to say this, but we do have email to get to us, but please don't send a lot of images. Send a direct website link or Instagram.
Okay, thank you.
Because then when you look, because I look at art every day.
Yeah, and
Ooh,
yeah.
cool.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. One more. Who's it going to be? Spin that.
the girl in the yellow sweater.
Okay, right here in front.
Hi, what is your definition of Chicano and what do you hope to expand?
What is my definition of Chicano? Boy, that's an evolution. You know, I'm all for the expansion of the definition of Chicano because it represents an outsider point of view by definition. It was those people who were not included in the general definition. It's you know, the evolution of the word. Chicano was originally an insult from Mexicans to other Mexicans living in the United States, and the concept being that the Mexicanos that were living in the United States were no longer truly Mexicanos because they had left their country of origin and they were living in tin shacks along the border. So they were something less. They were something smaller. They were chicos. They were Chicanos, little satellite Mexicans living in East LA, you know? And as time went on, that community, starting with my father's generation, he just passed away, he was 93, they took it as a badge of pride because it really described them. You know, when I grew up in South Central, it was like, yo, Mexican. You know, I was always a Mexican. And one day I said, wait a minute, I'm not Mexican. I never been to Mexico. I wasn't born there. I don't speak Spanish. So how am I? And when I heard the term Chicano as a can-do spirit and an independent, I said that's what I am. That describes me, and that's kind of the point of Chicano identity is self-description. So I think what is and isn't a Chicano, it is not necessarily based upon at this point a certain Latino country ethnicity. I think it's all of them. And how do we put that together? Because it's all culturally and aesthetically influenced by Mexico, Central America, South America. On the other side of the hand, we have Caribbean culture, which Puerto Rican, Cuban, all those Dominican, all those. But their main cultural influence is Africa. And that's the separation. It can be the bringing together but Mexico and Africa were the two big influences culturally and aesthetically in the evolution of this country and that kind of art. So if you have a theory about what Chicano is, let's hear it. You know, because I want it to be all-inclusive. But it's always in a state of evolution. Always, and that's one of the hallmarks of Chicano culture. It's always evolving as we engage with what's considered to be mainstream culture. We are mainstream culture. You just haven't realized it yet. So do that. All right.
Thank you so much, and thanks for both of you for being here. And again, just please visit the CheechCenter.org so you can find out updates and sign up for the list there, and then visit CheechMarin.com for information about all things Cheech.
And go to Kulapat's email or your
website is why-site.com, right? Yes. And we'll talk later about why.
And find out what we're doing, and please join us.
Yes, please do. And again, the CheechCenter.org, and then you can sign up. There's lots of great things. And I know there's a lot of community programming, too, that will be announcing opportunities if you want to come and participate in community discussions. This is the time. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody, for coming here. Enjoy the rest of the art. Thank you.